just lost my phone. It has been a pretty rough month, so I decided to go on Craigslist to get a new one. I ran past an iPhone 8 ad. It was posted up by some guy named Dave. The phone was around $200, which was pretty cheap for a 128 gig iPhone. At first, I found it a bit dodgy, but I eventually convinced myself to reply to the post with my contact details. The guy texted me back like 15 minutes later, followed by 3 pictures of the phone itself. I asked if we could meet up at a public restaurant that was like half a mile from my crib, just to be safe. I asked my older brother to tag along with me, as it would make me feel much more comfortable. The following afternoon, I and my brother went on our way to meet up with the guy. He seemed pretty decent, well-dressed, and presented. He said he was from the next town and was selling the phone because he had just bought a brand new one, and how he obviously needed the cash. We did the transaction, and then we all went our own way. The story doesn't end there though. A few days later, I am at home minding my own business when I heard what sounded like 2 small stones hitting my bedroom window. I looked out of my window to see no one there. I thought it was just my older brother goofing around as usual, so I kinda brushed it off. I called down to him and heard him reply from his bedroom, which was just opposite of my bedroom door. It was still bright and sunny outside, so I just thought and assumed it might have been the kids in our neighborhood. I then heard the garage door slide open. I didn't hear my mom's car engine run, and besides, she normally signaled for us to open the garage door for her using her car hooter. Besides, it was a bit too early for her to be home already. I walked towards my brother's room, who was already storming out of his room to fix the mess he had made in the kitchen. We both decided to run down the stairs before hearing what sounded like someone trying to break down a door. It was the door connected to the kitchen that leads to the garage. But why would our mom be trying to break down the door? It probably took us like 6 seconds to realize what was happening before my brother ran to our house phone to dial 911. My brother grabbed a baseball bat and yelled out to whoever was out there that there were people in the house and that 911 was on its way. The guy immediately bolted out of the house, running through our front yard past our living room. I looked out the window to see 2 men in black, one with a face mask and one without. My heart nearly dropped when I noticed that it was the same guy that sold me the phone a few days back. But how did he even find me? I remember ensuring that no one was following us back home that day. The cops arrived exactly 4 minutes later, followed by my mom. We told them everything and even gave them the contact information used to communicate with the guy on the day of the exchange, including the phone. Turns out the phone was used to get my location through Find My iPhone. It was never confirmed if the phone was stolen or not, but I later destroyed it and went to buy a new one a month and a half later. I haven't used Craigslist ever since. When I was 21, I transferred to a college in San Francisco. I checked out a room for rent on Craigslist. It was in a really nice 2-bedroom apartment. It was cheap rent and close to campus, so it was the ideal spot. The girl who lived there was 29 and her name was Beth. She was tall and white and she had jet black hair and wore pale makeup. She seemed nice, although a little quiet, but she seemed to like me and agreed to let me move in. So far, so good. My first night there, we went out for pizza, and that's when I could tell that something was a little bit off with her. Throughout dinner, she kept telling me how much I looked like Shia LaBeouf. I didn't know what to say, so I just shrugged it off with a thanks. I mean, I look nothing like Shaw, so it just didn't make any sense to me. When we got back home, she asked if I had seen a room yet. I said no, and so she Sometimes she wouldn't say anything and would just stand in the hallway and watch me in the living room. I would turn and see her and be surprised and say, "Hello, Beth." And then there would be this long, awkward pause, and she would give out her creepy, high-pitched giggle. It was uncomfortable being around her. She gave me the chills. One night, I woke up at around 2 a.m. because I heard what sounded like the front door being unlocked. I came out of my bedroom and all the lights were off, but I could still see Beth standing at the front door. She had her face against it, and she was turning the lock back and forth over and over again. And every time she turned the bolt, she mumbled my name. Max Parker, Max Parker, Max Parker. Seeing her standing in the dark and mumbling my name really freaked me out. And it doesn't help that she kind of looks like a bigger version of the girl from The Ring. I just quietly went back to my room and tried to sleep. One night I was watching Gladiator and she stumbled out of her room and turned on the living room light, forcing me to pause the movie, which was annoying. She then asked me if I wanted to hear about her ex-boyfriend. It was uneasy, but I just said sure and then awkwardly sat back to listen to her. 10 minutes into her story and she was so riled up. She was screaming at the top of her lungs about the breakup. I was worried that the neighbors were going to call the cops and she wasn't listening to me when I was asking her to lower the volume. Amidst all of her screaming, one thing she said really freaked me out. She was in such a fit and yelled, "I'll slit his fucking throat." That was a big game changer. Suddenly, I had no idea what this girl was capable of. She was practically a stranger and everything I had seen was becoming alarmingly disturbing. After a few more minutes, she told me thanks for listening and started doing her giggle. I got out of there pretty fast and went to my room to go to sleep. I had a pretty unsettled feeling about being in the house with her, and what's worse is that there was no lock on my bedroom door. I pushed the edge of my dresser in front of it to act as a little barricade. I woke up in the middle of the night to the sound of my dresser scraping against the floor. Beth was pushing the door open. I turned on my light, shouting at her to stop. I could see her through the opening of the door. She was so drunk and had this insane look in her eyes. I pushed the door closed and yelled at her to go to sleep. I could hear her walk back to her room, but I couldn't fall back to sleep. The next morning, when I went out into the hallway, my heart dropped. I saw one of her steak knives on the floor by my door. I got goosebumps all over my arms. All I could think about was her saying she would slit that guy's throat. I confronted her about it and she said she didn't remember trying to push my door open. She said she didn't even remember telling me about her ex. I had enough. My lease was month to month, so I found a new spot and moved out. About a month after I moved out, she contacted me. I was at the movies and my phone was off. When I got out, I turned my phone on, and to my shock, I received 40 plus text messages that she had sent me over the past 2 hours. They were all just insane texts that ranged from everything between "Hi, how are you?" to "I fucking hate you." It was insane. I didn't respond, and I never heard from her again. I always wondered if I hadn't set my dresser in front of my door, would she have quietly come into my room and slit my throat? It freaks me out. Yesterday was probably one of the worst days I have ever endured, and it all started with a phone call at about 7 a.m. I picked up my phone to see who was calling me so early, but since I didn't recognize the number, I just put it on silent and fell back asleep. When I was really strange, since if something bad had happened to a family member, I should at least recognize one of the numbers. Then, things only got weirder as I heard the first voicemail. "Hi, I was just given a call about the house you have for sale. I saw the Craigslist ad and was hoping to figure out a time I could be given a walkthrough. Just give me a call back. Thanks." I figured that was just a wrong number and played the next voicemail. "Yeah, hi, I was calling about the house for sale on Craigslist. If you could give me a call back, I'd really like to know some more about those murders before I take a walkthrough. Thanks and have a nice day." After hearing the second voicemail, I was really starting to wonder what the hell was going on. The other voicemails were all pretty much the same, inquiring about setting up a walkthrough and wanting to know more about the murders. After I finished listening to the last one, I needed to find out what the fuck was going on. I called the last number to leave a voicemail, and a woman answered. When I asked her about the house she was calling about, she said there was an ad on Craigslist offering a house for dirt cheap. But it was only so cheap because the post said that a couple had been murdered in the house. I asked her if she could text me the link, and she assured me that she would. About 2 minutes later, my phone buzzed, and I saw her number pop up on its screen. I had no idea what was in store for me by clicking on that link. When the webpage opened, the coldest chill I have ever felt shot down my spine. What I saw was a picture of my house on a Craigslist for sale ad. What made it worse was that the pictures had been taken within the last week. You could see the pumpkin that I carved last weekend. Then I read the posting description. "I have this sweet little home I am putting up for sale. It is located in the town, just a hop, skip, and jump away from the city. Enjoy all the seclusion and privacy that this house will bring you. My asking price is $2,500,000. Disclosure: there is a reason why I am basically asking for nothing. This precious couple who lived there, a young man and a woman, were murdered in the house a year ago. I figured I would get it out in the open now so that I'm only contacted by people who are not bothered by this. Don't let this little mishap dissuade you though. The neighborhood is very safe, I promise. You can call me at any time, day or night. I never sleep, and we can set a time to take a walkthrough of the house. My number is so and so. I look forward to hearing from you soon." I felt like I had been socked in the gut. What the fuck was going on? How did they know my number and my name? I immediately called my girlfriend over to see. I could see the horror set in on her face as she looked at the ad. I didn't think I could feel any worse until she pointed out how our car was in the picture. We were in the house when someone took these pictures. I immediately called the police to figure out what the hell to do. They informed me that I should immediately contact the Craigslist to remove the posting. Other than that, there was really nothing else they could do at the moment. The only crime they had technically been committed would be trespassing, but since whoever took the picture wasn't on our property anymore, they couldn't do anything else. I'm freaking the fuck out. My girlfriend was on the phone with her mom in hysterics for most of the day yesterday. Today, we've just been on constant alert. Every sound we hear makes us jump. I think that the worst part is, I know there's really nothing that I can do. I feel so violated and so helpless.